When my friends and I were in 4th grade, inspired by a heated classroom debate, we decided to form our own little climate club. We dubbed it the Union of Concerned Students, and we made plans to ditch plastic straws everywhere. We were going to put up flyers, draw in new recruits, go to the Starbucks down the street, and get them to ditch straws. I was so excited about this club, I even made a Google Classroom for it. Except, I never told anyone about it because the club was long dead by then. It's not like anything horrible happened. We weren't shut down and persecuted by big plastic or anything. We just lost interest. And though I don't know what your lives have been like up to this point, I wonder if some of you have had a similar experience to mine. That is, being invested in this issue of mass importance, only to see your interest fade over time. Take a look at the Google Trends data for gun control as an example. Yeah, I know, the happiest of topics, right? As you can see, there are numerous spikes of interest in the topic, spikes that coincide with some of the worst examples of gun violence we've seen. Sandy Hook, Orlando, Parkland, Uvalde. After every tragedy comes shock, heartbreak, rage, yet every time, months or even weeks after it happens, the country moves on. Moves forward, pretends that everything is okay, that what happened was a fluke, until the next mass shooting happens, and the cycle starts anew. So, what happened? Why did we fall off these social justice issues so easily, even when we care about them a lot? And more importantly, what can we do about it? Now, before I start getting into all the reasons and explanations, I think it would be good to start with a story. A recent one, actually. This January, students at my school, Evanston Township High School, staged a walkout, marching downtown in support of our immigrant community. It was not only attention-grabbing, but inspiring to see proof that we as students can stand up for something we believe in. Except, according to the Illinois report card, there are just under 3,500 students at this school, meaning that for every student who attended the protest, there were plenty more who stayed in class or who walked out as an excuse to just go home. Personally, I didn't attend the walkout that day, partially because I wasn't aware of the downtown protest part, but mostly because I had a chemistry test that day, and I really didn't want to miss it. And AP Psychology was after the walkout, and that's my favorite class. Even if I had known about the March to Fountain Square, I honestly can't say I would have gone. So what does that make me, and by extension all of us? Selfish? Lazy? Too much of a nerd for my own good? See, I don't think that's the case. Well, except for me being a nerd, that is unequivocally true. But I don't think our fading interest in social justice is due to some societal moral failing. Nor do I think it's all that complicated, full of brain science mumbo-jumbo I have no business talking about here. No, I think the key behind that dwindling passion is pretty simple, actually. In fact, I think it has all to do with this one simple phrase. This isn't going to change anything. For months, years, even decades, we as a society have been overwhelmed by tragedy after tragedy, injustice after injustice, by the newspapers, then the TVs, then the doom-scrolling vortex we call our phones. News cycles, headlines, social media algorithms are all trying to promote what we're most likely to engage with. And research shows that we are more likely to engage with the stuff that makes us scared, mad, even depressed. This is something psychologists call the negativity bias hypothesis. Whereas before news was confined to the paper on your doorstep each morning, now news is accessible at any moment, overwhelming you with the click of a screen. And when it seems that all you see, all that's being shown to you is the 1,000,001 ways our world is messed up, it becomes a lot harder to justify trying to fix it. Now, going back to the ETHS walkout, when many Evanston students found out about their fellow residents being arrested by immigration enforcement or the alleged poor conditions in detention centers, they felt outraged, horrified, disgusted. That outrage, I would imagine, is what prompted the walkout to begin with. Yet, alongside this outrage for immigration, or insert whatever topic here, was, I would imagine, this sense of hopelessness, of helplessness in the face of injustice. Why, we think, should we bother speaking out when we've been doing so for decades across administrations, both Republican and Democrat, with no sign of progress? How can we expect to hold anyone accountable when the culprits of our grief are miles away, seemingly untouchable? Why should we bother making signs, going to protests, donating to causes, taking time away from friends and family and everything that makes us happy, to be angry at something that's never going to change? Why speak up when it is so much easier to look away? I'm not going to stand here and pretend that every issue in this world can be solved by holding a sign. What I will say, though, is that what we're feeling and experiencing right now happens to almost every social justice movement, something that social change activist Bill Moyer called the perception of failure. This stage happens once the initial wave of activism is fading, when the powers that be feel too insurmountable to overcome, even when the movement has had success in the past. What Moore proposed to overcome this perception of failure is a shift in mindset, from a movement powered by short-term passion to a long-term popular struggle. Continue to get people on your side, chip away at injustice slowly but surely, and eventually what you're fighting for becomes impossible to ignore. I realize all of this is a bit abstract, so let me demonstrate with an example. Nothing to do with activism, I promise. This is my brother, Isaiah. He's actually in the audience right now. You can wave to him. He's 8 right now, and though his immune system is a lot better than it used to be, he used to get sick. A lot. One such time, he had a fever for 8 days, and by the time he got back to school, the amount of makeup work he had to do was mind-boggling. And he was 6 at the time. He didn't want to do extra work, so he flopped at my parents' bed and started crying, saying it was bedtime and he wanted to go to sleep. Now, I know there are many parents in the audience. Trust me, I'm not a parent myself, but even I know if your kid is saying it's time to go to sleep, something is seriously wrong. Now, my mom could have had him stay up all night to finish his makeup work, but not only would he not have liked that at all, he probably would have fallen asleep halfway through the work anyway. So instead, she sat him down and had him work on his makeup work for just 10 minutes that night. Not enough time to finish the work, but enough to make some progress. Do this enough times, and his work would be done eventually. And she was right. The homework was cleared, the meltdowns lessened, and the stress on all parties was resolved. Through small but consistent work, the problem was solved. And we've seen throughout history and across the political spectrum that this small and consistent work has succeeded in redirecting the actions of bigger powers. It wasn't that long ago, for example, that smoking was a common habit among Americans, with even nurses and physicians appearing on cigarette ads. The tobacco industry was big, it was rich, it was powerful, yet even they couldn't stop the shift away from smoking, as researchers found links to health problems and activists warned people to stay away. Opinions were changed, regulations were passed, and now, according to the American Lung Association, adult smoking has gone down 73% from 1965 to 2022. And then there's the thing that got little 4th grade me to care about being an activist: plastic straws and their impact on the environment. Now, numbers vary, but in 2018, the New York Times reported that Americans use up to 400 million plastic straws every single day. Of course, straw use is going to vary a lot from person to person, but imagine with me if every American committed to buying a pack of reusable metal straws, or even disposable paper ones. If that 400 million a day went to 400 million a week, a month, a year. Think of all of the space we would save. Think of all of the plastics kept out of our landfills, our oceans, by something so simple. It's a small change with a huge impact, but only if we do it together. I want to challenge all of us here today, the next time you read about an injustice in this world that you care about, to focus not on how powerless you feel, but what you have power over. To spend even 5 minutes a day doing something, anything that can make a difference. That could be voting for politicians that best represent your values. That could be reading the news and keeping yourself informed. That could be putting a compost bin in your backyard or using paper instead of plastic straws. Do that one thing enough times, and you can defeat the lie that injustice is impossible to overcome. Newsworthy protests and speeches are important, yes, but even if that's not your style, activism isn't all or nothing. It's not some burden placed on only the few. No, activism needs everyone united, everyone raising their voices, everyone making small but meaningful sacrifices that force the hands of those in power. Only then do we stand a chance of achieving real change. Thank you.